the market talks so much about this topic, and almost nobody really covers this part. Like, what's the
Mm.
point of validating a form builder? Is there a point to validate that when there are like 100 of them out there making money, millions? Why wouldn't your make money?
Oh, hi, John.
Hi, Alex.
Today, let's discuss the latest interview of Lex Friedman. He talked with Peter Levels. There are four topics. One is the tech stack. Peter Levels told that he uses jQuery and PHP heavily, all his products, and we know he has plenty of them, dozens. All of them are successful. He said that he is too busy to learn new tech. This is why he uses the things he is used to, just jQuery and PHP. I'm curious about your opinion on this. Should I use what I already know, or should I learn new tech such as Next.js or Astro.js? Also, if I'm a total newbie, should I start with jQuery and PHP? Is it a good idea? And what tech stack do you use? Let's talk about this.
Yeah, so I think people should stick to their stack if the stack is good. And I think PHP is a good stack. And it's proven, and we know lots of famous websites running on PHP and being successful. If someone is using something really old, like ASP.NET or whatever like that, uh, that would be a problem, I think, because those sites are slow and it's impossible to find people who can help with those. That's why I think in his case, he says just go for PHP, and a lot of people think that he says go for really old tech and be like a dinosaur. Where I think the reality is that PHP is really popular, it is widely used. It's same story with WordPress. People think WordPress is something bad, but WordPress powers almost entire internet, like 80% of it. That's why I think there is kind of double side story there. I think you should not stick to your stack if it's really, really bad. But what he says is that for projects which are not really complicated, you don't really have to go for a complicated stack. Like, the reason people go for frameworks and things like that is that when you have a team of developers, it's much easier to work together when you use frameworks, stacks, and all those libraries, some opinionated things. Then it's easier. Where jQuery is easy to start and difficult to maintain. But I think the
Mhm.
typical project an indie maker builds and Peter Levels builds isn't that complicated so that jQuery becomes a problem. That's why I think 99% of indie makers aren't going to build anything that's truly complicated and big and it has millions of lines of code. Most likely they will have average, medium size, or small size. And in that case, I think jQuery
Mhm.
is easy to use, PHP is easy to use, and I
Mhm.
would actually go with those if I know those. If I don't know those, I would go maybe with Next.js because I think Next.js is kind of new PHP because it's so similar. It's almost like they have reinvented
Mhm.
PHP, taking the whole loop. They have server side rendering. They have kind of a mix of client and server code in the same code base. I think these are really similar, right? So if I was new maker, I would learn Next.js, not PHP, just because the ecosystem
Mhm.
for Next.js is really good. Right now, you have Vercel, where it's easy to
Mhm.
deploy. You have templates that do everything, and it's easy to get started. I would not go for any strange stuff like people go for things like Svelte and Astra. I think those are cool, not that big when it comes to their ecosystem. It's not that easy to find the
Mhm.
templates for them and things like that. So my choice is stay with PHP if PHP is something you know. If you don't know anything, go for Next.js. When it comes to me, uh, I use JavaScript based programming. So I use my own framework, or not framework, but a platform called MarsX, which is based on things which are similar to Next.js, similar to React, similar to Vue. So that's why
Mhm.
I recommend that to others too.
So if you are a beginner and you already know PHP and jQuery, go with that
Yes,
stack,
and also if you're a
right?
beginner
You'll be fine.
and you know JavaScript, don't bother yourself learning TypeScript. TypeScript is great
Mhm.
if you're more than one person. If there's only one person building the code, it brings only the headache. you have to write more code for the types, right? But if there are two people, then it's great. Like nobody knows what the other person
Hmm.
does. So if I make a variable, I know what I'm planning to do with it, but you don't know, right? Then I put, a string
Mm,
next to it, then you know it's a string. But if you're alone and makers or solopreneurs, TypeScript is not needed.
yeah, I agree. I hate TypeScript. It adds unnecessary complexity and forces you to write 20 or even more percent of code for like nothing.
Yeah.
I already know what types I pass. Why do I need to write it? It's in my head. I have to argue with you. When I was starting Unicorn platform, I also knew jQuery and PHP, and I could just use that stack for Unicorn platform. But that would be definitely a wrong decision, right? Because you have seen the code and it's far from great, but it's still somehow maintainable because I used React.js and Django. But if I used jQuery and PHP, that would be a total mess. That would be unmaintainable.
I think
Why
your
not
your
learn new?
example is probably a complicated one. Like if you look at all the different products on the market for made by indie makers, um, Unicorn platform is one of the most complicated one, probably the most, because it has all the difficult things in it. It's a builder, it has domains, it has certificates, it has templates, so it's pretty complicated. That's why I think in these rare examples where you're building something complicated, and this is a complicated thing, you might consider to learn something that may will make your life easier. But again, you were lucky to pick something that made your life easy. You were just lucky. You could have picked something else like Angular JS and C sharp on the back end, and then things would be more complicated. But back at the time, you would think that's a good choice, right? Because maybe it was popular. So it's slippery slope. That's why
Mhm.
there's chance to make a mistake, and if you have that chance, better make your mistake faster, and you would get somewhere with jQuery and PHP. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure there are other no-code builders running on PHP and jQuery and doing okay. Right now, we're rebuilding Unicorn with totally new stack, for example, because we know exactly what we have to do. And you could do the same. You could just rebuild it with a new stack
Mhm.
6 months after the start, which would probably work. Like you don't have to, you know, people really think that it's almost like going to the Mars or to the moon. You have to think about everything in advance. I think the best way to build stuff being an indie maker is to just think about very little things. Just go ahead and do things fast. Think
Mm,
primarily about the speed and execution speed. And if you fail, just redo things. In fact, when you redo things, you get so much smarter about the same thing because you've done it twice. The good thing about rebuilding your tech is that while you rebuild your tech, you would also rebuild your UX, you would rebuild your features, and most likely going to remove a lot of that both on the design, on the features, while just simply porting it from one framework to the other framework. And I even have a rule that every project that exists, I told you that before, that every project that I have, I rebuild from scratch every year. That was my rule until now. Now I have too many projects, so I,
mm,
I can't do that as fast. But in the past, I would do that. And that was one of the reasons why I would always outcompete our competitors,
mm,
because they would just have the legacy running for years and then eventually they can't build new
mm,
features. They just maintain the old stuff.
Okay, so your general advice is to pick a simpler idea so you don't have to do complex code and you don't need complex tools.
Exactly. And
Right.
then redo both the idea, both the tools and things like that. But don't just spend too
Mhm,
much time on picking the tool and the idea and learning the framework. Like don't add complexity. There's enough complexity. And if
mhm.
you also add a new framework into your complexity set, then the chance to fail is really high.
Okay, my next question, again from the interview of Lex and Levels, they were talking about having fun making things. Is making a hobby for you or it's your work? Do you enjoy your hours during your day? Do you have other hobbies?
I think I really enjoy the marketing and I don't really enjoy the building part, because when you build stuff, it's
Mhm.
kind of you're alone just building the thing. Then something doesn't work, takes time to figure things out. Like I really hate it. I would say I just hate. to write code, and I just like nothing about that. In contrast to most
Mhm.
makers who really like building stuff, I don't like it. I really like making people happy. Like whenever I get a message or I see
Mm.
notification on Twitter where somebody says thank you for that or for this, I feel really good. Like that's kind of the reason I'm alive, is to see people uh, being happy about my tools. That's why
Mhm.
it's easy for me to be doing it for fun, because the way I build stuff and the audience I target is an audience which really speaks back and they share their feedback. It's not like a corporate audience where they never really tell anything, they're just using it. So that's why I
Mm.
kind of consider part of my job is fun. Like the marketing part is pure fun. I do it for fun. Like whenever I want to have joy, I go to Twitter and I write a tweet, or I go to um, SEO stuff and I build a directory, for example. That's like a lot of fun. I don't consider that as building because
Mm.
it's a no code. It just there's no code and then it's easy. But whenever I go and do the coding stuff or the architectures or the DevOps, the servers, I just
Mm.
hate it. And I hope that I
Mhm.
do it and I never have to do it again. So that's kind of a job. And I tell myself I have to do it because it's my job. And I will have fun later when I do the marketing for this thing.
Hmm. How would you advise to an average indie maker to think about their business? Should they think of it as a hobby or as a work? Should they dedicate some, let's say, 10 hours per day to do the job, no matter what, at a regular 9 to 5 job? Or should they think of this as a hobby? They should make fun of this. They should relax more if they don't feel like they want to do some coding or marketing today. What would be your advice to other indie
I
makers?
would try to mix it in a way I mix it. So basically, 20 things to do for a indie maker, and 10 of them are fun for you and 10 of them aren't. In my case, I love marketing, I hate coding. For some people, it's exactly the opposite. Like they love building stuff. Most of them are like that, right? And they don't like marketing stuff. So I would say try, like, take the part that you love and look at it as your hobby and do it in a way that you don't force yourself, so that you still like it. Because I never force myself to tweet, because whenever I try to force myself to do marketing, I do really bad marketing and then I lose the joy of it.
Mm.
And I don't want to lose the joy of that, because then I lose the joy of everything. That's why I'm really careful. Same for builders. If they are really into coding, they like it, then they should just do it in a way that they still like it. They should not force themselves to do in a faster pace and slower pace or whatever. And then the other part, like let's say they don't like the marketing, but they have to do it, then they take it as their job. It's almost like, you know, you like eating,
Mm.
but you don't like cooking. Well, you have to cook. And in this case, you have to market so that you can keep enjoying the fun part, which is uh, building. So that would be my advice, because the chance that people are enjoying both building and marketing is very low. Maybe some do. Maybe Peter Levels does. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I think most people either enjoy nothing or one of it, right? If you enjoy nothing, then it's a problem. I would
Mhm.
say don't do this whole thing at all, because it'll be a torture. But if you enjoy part of it, then the other part should be a job, and you have to force yourself. You have to make a system for yourself. You have to
Mm.
put deadlines for yourself. You have to treat yourself as unmotivated employee, and you have
Mhm.
to use all those tactics people use against those employees. And for the other part that you love, treat it as hobby and never force yourself, so that you keep loving it.
Okay, so imagine I love coding. I need to do marketing. I have to. How do I force myself to do that? You was talking about some systems. How do I build one?
I think you could just go for action-based systems where you say that I actually did that at the beginning of my marketing journey, where because I didn't like marketing at the start, I started liking it later. So a year ago when I started on social media, I didn't like that. I didn't like writing posts because it felt like kind of boring and not interesting. So I said myself, you have to 5 times a day. I had this scheduling tool where I had 5 spots and I had to fill them up whatever happens. And then I had to do 80 replies a day. So I was counting my replies, and if I don't get
Mm.
80, I just open my feed and I try to make 80. And even if they're bad, I still make, even if they're like really bad, I still do it because, the shame of making bad reply, is so bad that I actually try to make a good one. So I did that, and then I had also the rule that I have to write 2 articles per week for Hacker Noon, Dev2, and
Mm.
Medium, and those kind of places. And I did it every week. I hated that too,
Mhm.
but I did it every week, and if that was pretty easy. So I had this my little page in my Apple Notes where I had
Mhm.
my KPIs. So every week has to end with X number of replies, X number of posts, X number of articles, X number of calls,
Mhm.
X number of DMs, X number of cold DMs, and X number of people I follow so that they follow me back, hopefully. So I had those KPIs and I followed them for like 6 weeks, 6 months, 4 months, like from
Oh,
February
wow.
to May. And in May, suddenly I felt kind of good doing that, and it was not a torture anymore, and I liked replying, I liked posting, I liked writing the content, and suddenly I fell in love with it. So I think we have this tendency as humans to adapt to the world. I think from what I've seen in myself in 35 years, there was nothing that I was doing a lot that I didn't end up liking. And
Mm.
but with some things, it went the opposite way. I loved coding when I was younger, and I hate it now. But the reason I hate
Mm.
it now is that I realize that when I write code, it's so interesting. It's so, you know, flowy. I get into the flow and I
Mm.
can do it for like 15
Yeah.
hours and I go to sleep thinking about it, and I wake up and I want to do it again. And when that happens, I am absent for my family. When my daughter comes, I don't see her,
Oh, yeah.
and my neck doesn't move, and it hurts in the morning because I just don't move. I'm like a skeleton for a whole day.
Mm.
I just realized
Mhm.
that it's bad for my health, bad for my family, bad for my social
And
life, and that guilt made me hate coding.
mm.
Which is good thing because, in fact, I'm happy that I hate coding now because what happened, the good thing when I started hating coding is that I do more marketing. I try to focus on less features and I try to make them simpler. And one downside for people who love coding is that they over engineer things. And in a product,
Mhm.
people think it won't get worse if you have more features. That's what people think. But the reality is that it gets worse with more features because more features means people can't find the feature they need. They don't understand what's happening there. And also more bugs, more code, more bugs, more maintenance. That's why I think maybe
Mhm.
one advice I would give that's pretty strange would be start hating to code. Like don't make love with it.
Mm.
Like make yourself cold to this thing.
For somebody who doesn't have a family, how do I hate cold?
Well, you have friends, you have other things to do uh, besides coding, I think, or you have marketing. I know I haven't been in that position. So when I didn't have family, I was doing a lot of it.
Mhm.
So it's difficult to even guess, but I think maybe get
Mm.
family. Maybe that's solution. Find a girlfriend. I mean,
That's
you don't need
brutal.
kids. Just find a girlfriend, and she'll occupy your life.
I think one way to hate coding is to realize that every new line of code doesn't bring you new revenue.
Oh,
It doesn't make you successful.
people know that.
It,
It doesn't
it
help
just
them.
it is not. You're not right. I must disagree. People code because they think that this helps their project
I
and
talked
they
to
will
people
succeed because
about
of
that.
these new
I talked to
features.
Dagobert about that, and he said, "Look, man, I realized that I actually like building stuff. Whatever happens after, I just like the process of building the thing with my hand without even thinking about users and revenue." And I think most people, like I talked to so many people on Twitter, like crazy many, hundreds
Mhm.
in my DMs. I don't know why people think I'm their mentor and they just come in and just start asking me questions and then they say, "I will report back to you." I'm like, "I didn't ask for reporting back to me." Like, but all right. And then they sent me their results and everything. But it's still interesting. And most of them are are so happy about doing something, and then like today I talked to the guy who was so proud. He was a serious guy, very serious with money, and he was telling me, "Look what I built," and he's showing me the directory, and then he says, "We spent
Mhm.
3 months building it with a team," and I'm like, "I can do it in 1 hour alone, exactly the same. Why did you did you spend 3 months?" Well, we did few extra things. I'm like nobody gonna care about those. This is directory. People don't care about anything on directory except the items listed there, pretty much, and your marketing activities. Like there's nothing on the UX of directory that you can do to blow people's minds, right? Like what can you do there? And but yeah, it's I think a lot of
Mhm.
people are in the trap. Not you, you're kind of experienced maker, but I think almost all first time makers kind of find joy in building the thing. They feel like it's their thing.
Okay. I can't imagine myself forcing myself to do little things, these micro habits, and then eventually start enjoying them.
Maybe you've done that.
I feel
Maybe you
so
didn't notice.
depressed when what helps me is to pretend, is to trick myself.
Mm,
When I tell myself this is super important and this will change
mm.
everything, for sure. If you eat this, I don't know, mushroom, you will grow like in the tail. If I believe, truly believe this, I can do everything for no matter how long. But you have to really be good at tricking yourself, and
Yeah.
it can play a bad joke.
Yeah. I actually seen that in you. And I think one downside of that approach is that the moment you realize that you didn't achieve that goal, you feel really bad and you can't do anything. Like if you trick yourself with certain assumption that this is going to make someone crazy about it or whatever, and then you keep doing that for a month or in years, and then you see that didn't happen, then you feel so empty that you kind of
Mhm.
been doing this all this time and this didn't happen.
um, I learned how to fight this too, and that was super simple. I just told myself that, okay, I tricked myself, I failed, I'm gonna trick myself again and try again. And the whole my life is tricking myself and trying and failing or being successful. So it's not a problem to fail because I will trick myself in another way and try again. The game isn't stopping here because I
Yeah,
failed. So
it's
it's not a
difficult.
problem.
I think it's very difficult for someone to repeat what you do. I think it's like you have really good imagination and you're able to keep yourself in a tricked mode, in a fantasy mode, in a fantasy world. And that's very difficult for normal people.
Okay, this is why we have this conversation to have
Yeah.
various opinions, approaches, and people can listen to us and inspire and maybe invent something new. Let's proceed to the next one. Peter told a lot about how he finds ideas for his startups. He said that you need to be opportunistic. You need to look at the world with the eyes of an entrepreneur. You should seek for problems to solve. If you book a ticket, for example, for a flight, and you hate the system, you must build a new, a better one. This is how he sees the world. What about you? Do you have these eyes of an entrepreneur? Are you opportunistic? Or you have some other ways to find ideas for your projects? Share with us, please.
I think the type of entrepreneur he describes is probably the most typical entrepreneur I know. I'm one of that type too. So basically, there are people who just see everything as something that can be improved, right? And that's a big problem if you have girlfriend, by the way. Like whenever I look at my girlfriend, I always tell her how to improve that and this and this and this, and she's like, "Come on, I'm not your project." So yeah, I share identical view on that. So from my childhood, when I was little, I would do I would grow up on a farm with my grandparents for most of my childhood. I was growing up there, and she would do something, or my like they both would do some things. They were done the same way for like millions of years, and I would say like, "Why do we do it this way? Let's do it this way. It'll be easier because." And then I do some calculations, and they say like, "If we do it this way, we're gonna spend less time and more output and whatever." And they're like, "Shut up and do the work." And that would be like the typical conversation. But eventually I would do that. without telling them, and then I would show them the results, saying that, "Look, I've done it this way, and look, I did it faster and better," and things like that. And they said, "All right, let's do it that way. You're right." So I think people who have that, they will never have problems with ideas. So, like, whenever people ask me how you come up with ideas, I feel like, I have this thing, I had it all my life, and I never done any effort to be able to do that. That's why it's just natural. I feel like I was born with that. And if you don't have that and you have friends who are looking for ideas, I've been with them, trying to help them for many years, and whenever I see how they try to come up with ideas, how they behave in the world, I never see them try in this mode. I never see them seeing these opportunities, but they know that that's the way they should
Mhm.
behave. So I think this is something you can't force on yourself. I think you either have it or not. If you have it, then use it. That's why if you don't have it, I would not try to force yourself. I would go slightly different path. And my recommendation would be, like, even that thought that I do it certain way, I would not recommend that way, because if you are like me, you don't need my recommendation. You're kind of overwhelmed with ideas, right? But if you're not overwhelmed with ideas, it means you don't have that kind of thing. And if you don't have that thing, better do the other way. Go and find any group of people that's united by certain thing, like, they're doing same job or the same hobby, and just keep watching them every day a lot, keep listening them, keep seeing what's common in their life, and then listen to their problems. And people like to complain, and ask them, complain, ask
Mhm.
them for complaints, and they will complain. But try to find common complaints among all, and then take that as an idea. That's kind of really, really good way to not fail with idea, is to find it this way. And then the other way I would do is, like, do a job yourself, like you're a barber, for example, or you're a kindergarten teacher, and try to see what you can improve in your own job. I think that's slightly easier compared to being like Peter or like I do, where we see things with
Mhm.
flows everywhere. Like, I don't need an effort. I can look at anything and I see a lot of flows, a lot of things I can improve. But I think almost anyone can force themselves to see problems in their own job. And if you don't have
Mhm.
a job, I recommend to have a job. I just recommend people to first have a job and then try to make a startup. Like, never start with startup right out of school. That's bad idea. Try to have some problems at your job, and also try to have different jobs. If you don't find problems in your current job, change the job. Like, don't look for
Mhm.
salaries. Just run them. You can go and work in the grocery store and see certain problem at the delivery point or something, and create an idea for that.
But you still have to be opportunistic to see the
You
problem.
can force yourself in this case. Like, you can't force yourself to see
Mhm.
problems in the world, because you have to have really sharp eye for it to see problems everywhere. But to see a
Mhm.
problem within your job that you do every single day, and if you try to see the problems in that area for many months, you will eventually see them. You don't need a talent for them.
So you can force yourself to be opportunistic by doing it really
Yeah,
often, like
by
every day.
focusing that into the
You'll
same
see the
kind
problem.
of job or thing for a very long time, and eventually you will kind of squeeze out certain ideas from.
But what if I don't, for example? What if I don't? I know people who work as web developers, for example, and they don't have ideas.
Uh, well, if you tried that and it never worked, there is one more way, which
Mhm.
is which I use myself too now, because I sit at home now and I don't see all the problems of the world. So I go to Google Trends and I try to see uh,
Mhm.
raising trends. And I try to go to Google keyword research and see raising traffic on certain keywords. Like, for example, I remember how I bought Next.js starter domain. It was a while
Mhm.
ago, and I just went to Google and I was doing some random stuff, and I saw the trend that on Next.js starter going up, and I just bought it. I didn't really have any
Mm.
prediction whether that's going to be big or not. I bought it just because I saw that there's growth. And you could say it's a good idea, right? So like growing trend is a good idea, and I think now there's tools that analyze the trends, and you can use them and find ideas. Of course, it's quite risky because you don't understand the thing about that thing, right? That's why I try to find ideas or
Mhm.
growing trends within your area of understanding. That's why I went for Next.js because I understand that things slightly.
Mhm. Okay, but it still requires some skills. Research isn't for everybody, right? Or it's
Yeah,
easy.
I think it is easy. It's the easiest way. It's much easier than anything else because you can't fail. You may fail to find, but if you found something and it has the numbers you need, then it's true.
Mhm.
Because if you're opportunistic, you might still fool yourself thinking that you found an idea that's good or you found a problem that's serious. But if you see a keyword that's growing 900% month over month, there is zero chance you can fail. So it's more like it is less
Mm.
creative. It's more like you have to find a hidden diamond, and if you found it, it's in your hand. Whether with opportunistic approach, you never know. You come up with the idea, with the problem, then with the idea, you build it, but you never know if it's real until you actually made it.
So can you combine these to find a problem, then validate if it has a trend? If it's a problem plus a trend, that would be double
Yeah,
profit.
that way you reduce the risk of failing with your opportunistic approach. And I do that. Like I never do anything unless I check the traffic on Google, I check the trends, I search for it in social media, I saw enough mentions and I posted that on social
Mhm.
media and I saw enough likes. Like I never built anything until I have those four validation points checked.
Can you give us a quick guide, just a few points? For example, you want to send emails to your clients and you find that the existing email tools suck. Then you decide to build your better one. This is an opportunity you found. It's step number one. What are the next steps? How do you validate it?
It's the most difficult topic to describe, and I even thought about it today that I have to make
Mm.
an hour video because everyone gets this
Oh,
wrong.
wow.
Like when I say you have to
Okay.
validate an idea, it doesn't mean that you have to validate the idea itself. Because if you had a pain and you think that will solve your pain, it's 100% validated because you just said that you had a pain. And the chance that you have that pain and there is no people in the world with the same pain is zero unless you're a psychopath. That's why like any pain you have is real and is shared, and there are a lot of others with that pain. That's why the real thing you do while you validate the idea is that you validate your ability to explain the pain, the solution, and to grab the attention of the audience that needs this to be explained to. And that's very difficult. That's very difficult. That's why when I tell people validate and I tell them start with audience first, I want them to understand and to realize that they may probably aren't able to communicate this to the audience. And if they can't, then there's no value in building this whole thing because they can't explain it. So that's why, like, if you ask for the guide step by step, I would do it this way. I find the problem that I have, I do nothing with that problem. I just try
Mhm.
to share the problem with others and see whether I'm even able to
Mm.
share and receive compassion for that. So the people actually say, "Yeah, I have the
Mm.
same, and my friend has the same." And if I, it sounds easy,
Yeah.
but the reality is that it's really hard. Most likely, you're gonna share the problem. People are gonna be, "Yeah, exactly." They're gonna just ignore it because you're not.
Mm.
And you have to try it for a long time until you manage to communicate it. And probably you're going to change the way you communicate it. And once you manage that, then you actually go backwards and you build the solution out of the thing you just communicated.
Okay, that sounded a little complicated. I was thinking you list some tools maybe
Well, I can list
or
the
where to
the
validate.
simple way, but it is just the market talks so much about this topic, and almost nobody really covers this part, that when you what's the
Mm,
point of validating a form builder? Is there a point to validate that when there are like 100 of them out there making money, millions? Like, why wouldn't your make money if others are making money? You can literally copy pixel to pixel in other tool. You can do that. Like, nobody gonna stop you from that, right? And it should work, but it will not work because most likely you're not capable to communicate that problem idea and to resonate with the audience. So that's why I think the whole maker world should be obsessed with that. They should be obsessed with their ability to communicate a certain problem and possible solution to a certain audience, and to capture
mm,
that audience, and talk things which are interesting for the audience. And if that happens, you can do it on Twitter, on and people say I have no followers. Well, you don't really need followers. You just
mhm,
find posts and you reply to posts. And if you reply with something that's resonating with the author, he will reply back to you.
right.
Right?
Mhm,
And if you can't put a reply
mhm,
that he
mhm.
replies back to you, it's not because you have little followers. You can't communicate.
But most people can't.
Exactly. And most
It's
most
very
people should
hard.
learn it. Like, people, I have this guy, or I have this 100 guys on Twitter, mostly from India, write me um, the questions how to become
Mhm,
a maker. I tell them, just close your VS Code, forget about code, just forget about it. It's not the way to start. Just try to talk about
mhm,
something, just one thing, in a way that you sound smart, you sound interesting, you bring value. And first, try it via
mhm,
replies, and then try it
mhm,
in your
mhm,
own posts. And they go and they try for one day, they come back and they say, well, I have no followers, nobody's reading my stuff. And I'm saying, okay, let me read. And I read, and it's just garbage. It's really bad. And then to tell him, that's fine, I had the
mhm,
same thing in
mhm,
the beginning. I tell him, that's day one out of 100 days or 1000 days. So from here, start again tomorrow,
mhm,
look at everything you wrote yesterday, and try to make it better. Just like slightly better, 1% better. And every day try to make it better. Just look at your replies. One got 20 views, one got 29 views. All right. See what's better
mhm,
in the other one, right? And do that for a year, for two, for three, for four. Basically, do it until you learn it. If it takes you 10 years to learn it, do it. Because if you skip it, they say, well, I don't have time for it.
mhm,
If you skip it, you're never going to succeed. I have never ever seen anyone in my life who was successful who wasn't able to
mhm,
communicate. Never ever. Like, show me that person. I never seen that person. Like, that's why if you want to skip the part of learning to communicate, like, you're skipping it
mhm.
to the failure. Like, you skip it and you fail like faster. That's kind of wrong way.
You you're skipping it. If you skip the part of learning, you're skipping it. You said,
You're skipping it right to the graveyard, basically, where the failed founders are
"Oh
laying.
wow,
So, and it hurts to hear. And every maker wants to get faster to the,
yeah,
having a tool, having users and revenues and everything.
yeah,
Because people like me, we talk like we were there all our life. But, look at our past. Look at everyone. Like, take any maker that's doing well, scroll back to their first 3
mhm,
years, and they were like losers there. But for some reason, almost everyone who is following a maker who is kind of successful now, they compare themselves with the maker today, right? Like, you can't compare that. You have to compare yourself to their first days too. And I'm trying to, talk about that on internet, and it's not popular. Like, whenever I talk about
mm."
that, it doesn't get views, like,
Everybody needs simple solutions.
unfortunately.
You don't give them answers, you give them
I give
more
them work to
questions.
do,
It's
right?
not.
And they want just a magic
Yeah.
spell. But, I know people who I managed to convince on this topic, and they're doing it really well. And I'm very proud about them and about me spending time on convincing. So it works with some people. And that's why I want to launch this incubator project, where I want to focus on this. So my incubators will be 99% about the audience and 1% about the product building. Like there will be very little about building a product. It will be all about winning the audience, communicating to the audience, and things like that.
Speaking of, tell us about your new venture incubator. What's that? Is it a new YC but for makers or something bigger?
Yes, I
How does
think
it
you can call it
work?
a new YC for non-VC funded makers, where in YC the end goal is to raise money
Mhm.
on a demo day, where in our system the end goal is to win the attention of the audience. It's not even the revenue, it's not the profit, it's the
Mm,
attention of the audience. It will be fully based around attention because I believe that if you win attention of the audience, you can make money on that. There is literally 0% failure chance there. Like if you own the
mhm,
audience, you can make money on. That's why I will focus it on that, and I will, instead of going really widespread like buildspace did, where you can come and make songs, you can make software, you can make
mhm,
courses. I think that's wrong, and why it's wrong because one of the power of but the incubators into, you know, 4 weeks, one group, is that you get network effect. You have collaborations, you have certain piggybacks and things like.
mm,
And if they're doing totally random stuff, there's no chance they can help each other. Like even now, if you look at the indie maker community, we're trying
mm.
to collaborate, but it's so difficult because we're doing such different stuff that it's difficult to figure out a way to collaborate. That's why I want to have this
Yeah.
tracks. And the first track I will start is directories. So it will be only people building
Mhm,
directories, and even directories will be in kind of
mhm,
area where they don't compete, but they can help each other. So I will only pick, or I will only allow those
mhm,
ideas in this batch where they don't compete with each other, they can help each other. So that the outcome of it is that we every individual
mhm,
works towards winning attention of their audience and launching their directory to the
mhm,
audience. And then they also help each other to share some of their audience with each other in a way that audience wins. For example, like if you have if you have a directory with templates, then you can have
mhm,
links to another directory that has people who build template, for example, and you could order a template if you don't find a template there. So I will try to find the synergies, and I will, so it will be almost like a team. So basically the whole batch will work almost like a team because I think that's what we are missing. So I'm solving two problems. One problem, I want to really teach people to win audiences, and I want to teach people to collaborate. Because one of the
mhm,
reasons my products are doing so well is that they're all collaborating with each other. So I'm kind of launching a lot of products, and they share their audience with each other. And the other thing is that I communicate that thing well and I win the audience. And I want to replicate that in this incubator so that people can do that. And I
mm,
understand that most people can't do 20 projects like I do, and that's fine. That's why I want every one of them to do one project, but then I want to help them to collaborate
mm.
all together.
Tell us, please, what is a directory? Because when I share my directories, people
Yeah,
often ask, "What's this? What's the value? What's this website
I,
looks like?
I mean,
Why
I'm
do you
shocked
build
when
it?"
people ask what's a directory. I'm like, I thought everyone knows, and I have this question on Twitter all the time. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. So a directory is a website that lists items and lets users search for those items using either free text search or filters. And the reason we need directories is
Mhm,
that we have an abundance of choice in the world, almost in every niche. Like if you want to find good template for your website, for example, if you Google for it, you're gonna get some trash on the top. It's like really difficult clicking on those links and figuring things out. But if there was a directory that had 100,000 templates sorted by stars, filtered and grouped by the stack or by the usage, like personal templates, e-commerce templates, etc., it would be a really useful place for you to go and to filter out things and find things you need. Same as you go to Craigslist or you go to other places to find houses, cars. So in the old world, directories would be primarily used for things you would buy for expensive stuff like houses, cars,
Mhm.
and tools and things like that. So it was kind of around the marketplace e-commerce stuff. But recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, the quantity of everything grew so much, and the globalization has changed the world
Yes.
that everyone from everywhere can sell to everyone, and that's why the quantity is huge for everything now, especially for digital things, like for templates, for
Oh yeah.
logos, for people who provide services, etc. And that's why we see that the user wants a place they can trust. User wants tools to filter and sort the vast majority number of items. And that's where
Mm.
directories come into play. So the directory organizes the chaos. Like Google organizes the whole world information, but directories do it even better. They organize it step farther, and also they add things on top of it, such as user reviews, likes, some information such as like traffic on those websites, or other
Mm.
KPIs of those items, whatever the items are. So users really
Yeah.
need it. And until some time, directories weren't popular because nobody knew how to grow them unless they were like Craigslist type. But recently, a few years ago, Google took this strategy and the path of focusing on useful content versus content made for the sake of Google search. And when they
Mhm.
started doing that, I was sure, I made a prediction that this whole game will lead to Google putting directories up on the search compared to blog posts, because it's
Mhm.
totally clear that the directory of best pet bribes, things like that,
Mhm.
is way better than a blog post that lists the same thing, because you can understand that the blog post was made by someone who spent 7 hours on it in
Yeah.
there, but directory is a huge project maintained by someone for years. So the quality here is bigger. And that's why my prediction was that the Google will promote directories more than it promotes blog posts. And that's what's happening. And that's why I saw that you can grow directories purely on SEO, like nothing else to do, no ads, no social media, nothing else. SEO only can grow your directories to millions of views. And you don't have to be lucky for that. You don't have to be genius for that. I've done that more than 10 times. And as a hobby, like I really spent a little time on that. So that's a directory. Directory is a place that organizes a certain list into searchable and filterable
Mm.
list for the users who are searching for that kind of data. That's a directory.
Mhm. That's a great explanation. So before we had a blog writer, some guy or a girl who spent a few hours and makes a list of 10 top website builders. Then they go at home, sleep, they come back to their desk job, and now they put another hat
Yeah,
and write a new blog post. Top 10 open
exactly. And they have
source
no idea what's
deployment
actually good and
tools.
bad. They just do random search and they put random sorting on the list, right?
Yeah, but a directory is a website dedicated to this topic made by a person knows the topic very
Yes.
well. He most probably used all these tools listed on this website. And that's an obviously more valuable source of information than a blog post. And finally, Google was forced to do the job it was
Yes,
born
because
to
they had
do,
no chance.
provide
They had
search
no chance.
results.
They would kill themselves if they didn't do it. Why? Because I can just
Yeah.
spin up AI to create, 10, 100 of those blog articles about everything, 10 best cities to go, 10 best cars to buy, and all those things. And I would be winning the top of Google with crap content, right? doing the same for directory is hard, and AI is not going to really be helpful here because the directory with most items, with the most metadata and images and some user data and ratings and things like that will win, right? And people will click on that often, and Google will see the people
Mhm.
click there and they don't come back. Means they like staying there, so they will push it up. So I think directories were made for Google, and Google basically basically directories are kind of an extension of Google, right? So the way I see the whole thing work
Mhm.
now, like the typical user journey of my user for my directories is that they go to Google, they search for something, they press my item, they land on my directory, they go back to
Mhm.
homepage of my directory, and they continue the search there. So from the point of Google,
Mm.
everything worked out, right? So me as a user, I'm happy for Google that Google kind of led me through this journey. Yeah, I left Google. I could do more searches while searching for that thing on Google, but in reality, I would end up going to a blog post and finding something that's crap, but I have no other options. So I would leave Google anyway, somewhere. But for Google, it's better that I left Google going to directory because I'm happy now. And I remember that next time I will go to Google again to find next directory. And often I don't remember the directory itself. Like people are used to, still search in Google. So this kind of three-step process. They search in Google, they click on directory, they search on
Mhm.
directory, they find the item. And next time they go to Google, they search in Google, they find directory, they click directory, so and that's fine. So
Yeah.
people don't have to remember your brand. Like, don't really expect that. People don't care about your brand that much to remember it. But since Google likes it, they will give you so much traffic that you don't need returning users. I have very low returning user number for my directories, but I don't care because the new user number grows really fast because Google brings more traffic.
Yeah. Let's have a step back. The incubator, who is it for? Is it for the beginners, for experienced makers, for no coders, for people who build a SaaS? Can you elaborate?
I want to have it for three groups. So one group is the
Mm.
people who already have a project and they want to have a side project. So that's why I will start with directories because I think directory is a good side project. So if you have SaaS project, it's very smart to have several directories as side projects to complement your SaaS and to drive traffic there. Like, it's a no-brainer. I think every
Mhm.
SaaS in the world should do that. That's why I think we will have million more directories being launched in the next 3 years. And the second group is people who have never done any on their own, and I want them
Mhm.
to start with a simple and quick iteration thing. Where so instead of them entering the SaaS world, which is the best way to fail, the way to lose the whole drive to build stuff because it's difficult, it takes time, you fail, you feel really bad, you try
Mhm.
to iterate, you fail again. So that's 99% make they walk that path, and it's very depressing. Whether with the I think uh, it's possible to fail less often. And I think every maker should start with directory as step number one. That's why I will have that group too. So the first time makers, I want them to come in and I want them to learn to make by making a directory. And the third group
Mm.
is the people who already make directories, but they fail. And I want them to learn how to make directories
Mm.
properly. And those three groups will be in my target
Mm.
first. Maybe I will split them and maybe I will have a batch that's only new makers. Then the other one will be only side project makers, and then the other one is only directory makers. Maybe. Maybe no, maybe the opposite. Maybe mixing them will be better. So I have a lot of experiments to do. I will spend the whole year experimenting with this to come up with the best model, and that's why I will use directories. So I'll start with directories, and then I will have the generators, like generate
Mm.
something like AI generators, which will also serve as first simple project, as side project, etc. Then I will go for no code tools. There will be like simple no code tools
Mhm.
such as link in bio or CV builders, and
Mhm.
yeah, and then I will go for AI wrappers, and then I will go for microsas, and then I will even do one interesting thing, very interesting. We have this thing called micro app inside Mars, where every micro app can be forked, or in a human language, it can be white labeled. And I want to have a batch where I find founders who don't want to build anything. They come to the batch and they have 40 micro apps to choose from. They pick one and they white label it
Mhm.
instantly, like takes an hour. And then the whole batch is purely around them distributing it. There is no building part, no design
Mhm.
part, nothing. Only marketing and distribution and sales, nothing else. And they do it, and they either succeed or they fail. If they fail, they can try another SaaS, then another SaaS, then
Mhm.
another
Mhm.
SaaS. So it's basically almost like when you validate idea before you build it, but here you actually have it with no effort, and you validate whether you have an ability to promote it. And I would try to find people from certain spaces, for
Mhm.
example, people from bakery world, for example, and then they take the
Mhm.
website builder and they white label website builder only for bakeries, and then they try to win them, right? So that, like, I will try to avoid ideas and people and positioning where people try to do the mainstream stuff, like a regular landing page builder, like a Webflow. That's like impossible. Like, don't even try, right? But
Mhm.
this kind of more like long tail, very niched cases.
Can you tell why do I join Incubator as a participant and why should I watch this whole party? What will I learn if I follow this topic?
I think a lot of people learn by reading, learn by browsing
Mhm.
Twitter, reading books, watching videos. But I think any learning process where you don't act while you learn is bound to fail, almost in all cases. And that's why I think there is no better way to learn to be a maker than to be a part of such incubator. Not just this one, like any incubator that's a good, like YC, for example. It's also good. People learn a lot there. I've been into 500 startups 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and it was great. I learned so much there. So I think incubators are good, but today the modern incubators are really bad. Even like there are only three good incubators in the world. Uh, all the others are they look like a corporate spin-offs, and they're often run by corporates, and
Mm.
that's why they have these people who are hired to run an incubator, and nothing can run worse than this thing where you have hired people running the thing. But YC was great because it was run by founders. Same for 500 startups, same for Alchemist, right? And this one is like that too. So I think one thing people gonna learn here is how to make
Mm.
startups, not just by theory, but actually on practice, where they will do an action every day. There will be like no inaction. So one rule of this incubator that you get in there, it's 30 days. There is no day off. If you want days off, you have to find other incubator. So here you have things to do. Whenever
Mm.
you miss, if you don't do something one day, you're out. You get money back and you're out. And so it'll be almost
Mhm.
like a army camp, because people have to
Yeah.
learn to never postpone things. Like there was somebody today talking about Peter Thiel, why his people are so great at
Mhm.
businesses, and he and all people he was mentoring is the action bias. Like some people just do the stuff
Mhm.
when it needs to be done, and they just don't even think that they can postpone it. Like if you want to take a shit, you take a shit now. You just don't think I will do it tomorrow, right? And whatever, if you're tired, if you're sleepy, whatever, you get up and you do it, right? So you can, right? And you just have to do other things the same way. And
Mhm.
if you do that, then you learn to do things right away.
Mm.
And if you learn to do things right away, then your thing that you're doing is alive. It's kind of transforming every single moment because you're just adjusting it. compared to people who are just piling up their to-do list, and then one day they maybe get there, and but their actual product never changes. So I want that. I want people to learn that, and I want people to learn to focus more on the distribution, less on building. And I believe, like, people hear this and they say he says make crap products. No, I think if you spend less time on building a product, you make a better product. Like, I'm here to debate that with anyone who wants.
Mhm.
Like, I think if you spend less time per feature, per product, you build a better one. Why? Because if you have less time, your thoughts are sharper. You don't over engineer. You don't do
Mhm.
things you don't need, and you try to ask people because you have no time to fail. Like, if you have little time, you know you have to ask people before you do. If you have a lot of time, you're not asking because you have a lot of time. So that's why I think the outcome of this will be that we will have people will
Mhm.
spend 90% of their time marketing, 10% building, and they will end up building better products than when they were spending all their time building.
Mhm. Okay, so it will be an incubator for the beginners, right? Not for experienced.
Well, I think if you, it's not for beginners, it's not for experience, it's for those who want to launch the thing we launch in this batch and they don't know how to launch it. So you might be experienced,
Mhm.
you're a successful SaaS maker,
Mhm.
right? But you don't know how to make directories and you haven't had success with directories. And you can
Mhm.
learn it here. You can learn here, you can save time, and you can just add that into your skill set, the ability to create directories. Because the good thing about these kind of products I want to focus on is that these are mass products, like a factory. So you learn to make a directory, you can make one every month. So you can keep making them whenever
Mhm.
you're bored, and that's always a plus. That's always good. That's always more traffic, more passive income, etc. Same for other things. So I don't want to do anything on the complicated stuff. So I don't want to
Mhm.
teach people how to make successful SaaS, like a proper SaaS, because that's difficult. And I
Mhm.
believe it will take me a year to teach someone, but nobody going to spend a year learning that. That's why there's no reason to have any incubation for that thing. So I will only focus on
Mhm.
things I can really teach people from zero to
Yeah.
success within the time frame of the incubator, and that will give you this new skill set that you can reuse all over again moving forward.
Okay, but can't we just learn about all this from your tweets? What is the unique part of the incubator? Why do we go to the incubator instead of just reading
Some
guides?
people learn from tweets, but the problem with tweets is that uh, no, there are so many things, and you can't share them all in your tweets. Usually, I share things
Mm.
which sound easy, which make people read, comment, and repost. If I really go into writing something in an academic way where it's written in a way that you will learn, nobody gonna read that. That's why I don't consider Twitter to be really a place where you can truly learn something. I think Twitter is a place where you can create interest for something and then go and learn it.
Mhm.
And that's how I think things work. So that's why I think I create interest for directories on Twitter, but I don't think people can learn to make
Mhm.
one because I see people trying to make directories based on my advice, and it nearly never
Mhm.
works. Very seldom. And
Mm.
they write me, and then I chat with them and I tell them why and what are their problems, what are their mistakes. And I think that's like these little things which are kind of obvious for me, and there are a lot of small things which are obvious for me.
Mm.
But when I look at the actual director someone made, I'm like, come on, why this, why this, why this? And that's why in this incubation, I want to have that part. I want to have that part where I don't know in
Mm.
advance what things you're gonna take wrong. Like it's impossible. But whenever someone is making something and I look at it,
Mhm.
I can clearly see that, well, these things are wrong. And that's why I want to have fewer people in the batch, and I want to, so that I have an hour a week at least for every project where I can be this eye that looks at everything and corrects it.
Okay, let's cover one more question about this incubator thing. Why directories? Okay, I want to learn this, what you told about. I want to learn how to do good messaging. I want to learn how to collaborate with other makers. I want to learn how to do market research. But why directory? I want to build maybe a SaaS. Why do I start with a directory? Is it a good product to
I
start?
have simple answer. Uh, the directory product has the least need for building it. And my key goal in
Mhm.
this incubation program is to teach people to spend more time selling, marketing, and distributing than building. And I know that I can limit people to 1 day for a directory. So there will be only 1 day they can spend on it. They can't spend more. They are not allowed
Mhm.
to touch it again. Only 1 day, and every other day has to be spent on marketing. If I take anything else, SaaS or no-code tool or AI wrapper, uh, then in those projects you can't make it in 1 day. Also, you would have to go back and improve it and iterate it, etc. With directories, all directories look the same. There is no reason to make it look different than all the other directories. That's why it's
Mhm.
easier for me to push people to focus on distribution only during the batch. And once they learn to focus on distribution, and once they see the value of it, the day you see that you have spent 4 hours building directory and you're making money on that, and you're like selling directory to someone and making even more money on that, you will never want to spend more time on building stuff again. Like from this moment, your brain will change, and I want people to do that kind
Mhm.
of transformation. So my key goal for the first batch is to show people and teach people to rewire their brain where the product is not
Mhm.
the mo it is not like products are almost commodities. Like there are a lot of identical products to your product in the world today. There will be more launched tomorrow, but distribution is difficult, and every distribution is different from the other distribution. So that's where the real stuff happening, and nearly nobody understands that. So I want
Mhm.
to promote this idea, and
Mhm.
I want to promote this idea to indie makers primarily because my big goal is that
Mhm.
indie makers take over the world from the corporates and VC-backed startups, and that's kind of the small step towards this goal.
If I join your incubator and build a directory, I will not only get the knowledge,
Oh yeah,
but also a useful website, right? You
yeah.
can earn money with a directory or
I
get traffic
I
for your
can't
project.
estimate, and I don't want to give promises, but my hope is that there will be people, at least one after each batch, whose directory will become popular and it will make traffic, it will make money, and I even think that I want to give a price or even have an offer to buy a directory after every batch because I want directories, and maybe this is the way for me to build up more directories this way. So yeah, it is not just practice; it's real stuff, and we will see after first batch. Maybe there will be many successful directories. Maybe there will be just one. Maybe there will be none successful directories. It's an experiment, and I'm doing something that nobody else has ever done. And but I have the goal, which is clear to me, and I will figure out the way to achieve it. And my goal is to help indie makers to launch more successful products. And I think this is one of the best ways to do that. It will be very good example and experiment, and I would be happy to see the whole world of indie maker incubators that comes after this as a result. There are a lot of smart people with experience who know things, and I would want to see them doing similar things, even that it would be a competition to me, but I don't see it that way. I
Mm.
think we all have to make the pie bigger, and then everyone will have enough slice in the pie, because right now the pie is so small. Like people don't realize how small the pie is. Like the size of total software economy that's being processed through indie makers is 0.0. I'm just guessing, but it is so low, and we have to
Mhm.
bring it to 5%, at least one. And to do that, I think there's a lot of work to be done among indie makers, because
Mm.
right now indie makers are not doing good job on collaborating. And I feel like that's kind of my job to not to fix it, but to show that this can be fixed and to show that there's value in such projects, in collaborations in such projects.
How do you collaborate? The same way the YC
Yeah.
Mafia does. They sell it to each other, promote each other.
Yeah. So
How do
within the batch, people can help each other. After the batch, the first
Mhm,
batch might be successful, some of them. Then the next batch might
mhm,
get some value from the first successful batches, right? Same as YC. In YC, there was one successful batch. And then the next batch would use the first successful batch as their testimonials and their
mhm.
client list, right? And that makes them look cool. So all you need is
Yeah.
this first successful group that can be used later for the next less successful groups to become more successful.
How exactly can I, as a successful, for example, an incubator member, help others? Do I put banners on my website or what? Can you be more specific, please?
Very simple. So we are in directory incubator. We talk about SEO game, and SEO is all about backlinks. Is all about domain ratings and things like that. And that's why the directories that become successful, they can give backlinks to less successful directories. Of course, people won't do it for free. Of course, we will figure out a way so that everyone is happy. But as long as it is within the mafia thing, as you say, it is much easier to do,
Mhm,
and we don't really have to do it in a way. We can do it in a very central, not centralized, but in an easy way where uh, for example, if we do like one thing I want to do, I want to launch the indie ad network, and the first
mm,
place I will test the ad network is within the incubator. That's where I will test it within my own ecosystem of tools. There are a lot, and them. And first, I will act as the successful batch, because in fact, I am the successful batch of my own incubation right now.
mhm,
That's why I will give those links first, and
mhm,
then they will be more successful. And products, they will give more links, both links, banners, newsletters, social mentions, support and product hunt launches. So all those things, which are now done, like all YC companies do that. Like whenever YC company launches on a product hunt, they have their internal group where YC founders send to their own team members to upvote, etc. So I think this is being done
mhm.
already. I just want to do that too with indie makers.
Why don't we do this already? Is it that
It's
complicated
too
to
difficult.
collaborate?
I've tried. It's too difficult. So you need some more things that unite you. Like for example, why don't VC startups do it just out of the blue? Why only YC startups do it,
Mhm,
or only Horowitz startups do that? Because there are some
mhm,
people in those organizations which that take hands of the founders and put them together and say, you two are friends. And if you don't do that, things don't happen because
mm,
founders are busy. Have you ever tried to make anything with someone? It always
mm.
ends with no actions. Like you talk, then you have to do something,
Yeah,
then he forgets, then you don't reply, and then things just fall apart. Like I've
yeah.
tried 100 times, and the only collaboration I had that happened was with Dan, who is running 100 Space. So I linked to him from Next.js starter. He links from
Uh,
100 Space to
yeah.
Unicorn platform, and great, he gets traffic, I get traffic.
Mhm,
It's a win-win. If we just did that, if we just found all indie makers today and we all interlink based on common audience, tomorrow we will all have more money in the bank. Tomorrow, 100%. I guarantee that to everyone. Everyone would have more traffic because people would just buy more of the indie maker products than non indie maker products, right? Because they pay for a lot of stuff. I pay for over 100
mhm.
tools every month, and 80 tools out of 100 are VC backed. I'm happy to pay to indie makers, but I have no idea who to pay to. So I think there's huge potential
Mm.
here. I predict that we can 5x our revenue just out of the collaborations.
You said that Anderson Horowitz brings two founders in a room and forces them to collaborate right now,
Yeah.
right here. Do you plan to do that? You can't bring thousands of makers in one room. You said that you have that indie ad network idea. Is that the thing? to make us
Yeah.
collaborate? So there will be some money streams involved, or what? Can you share this idea more?
So the end goal is to have software that does it so that nobody has to think. You just say, I'm in, and things happen for you. You don't have to
Mhm,
think. That's the end goal. It's very difficult to
mhm,
do because people are not going to say yes to a thing that hasn't been tested. They are very skeptical about things, etc. That's why, first, as I always do, I build my products not as products, but as hand run services. And that's why I will take this
mhm,
incubator, and in the incubator, I will have less than 100 people, and I will just do it whole thing manually. I will just watch people, I will put them together, I will force them, I will think for them, and these things will happen. As a result, we will have some things coming out of it where I will present this to the world. I will say, look, we've done this, and this is what happened. Then I will do it again, and I will again present and say that, look, it works. People make more money, people make more traffic, people are happier with this. I will keep doing that several times, and one day I will launch a tool for that. And when I launch a tool for that, people will be already
mhm.
prepared. People will kind of wait for it. They will know it works, and it will be easier to get them to use it. So that's kind of this is simple process. If I start by making tool on day one, people won't use it, and also I will not make a good tool because I don't know exactly how to do it. When I make it manually, I will learn more about concerns of both parties, like what they want out of it, what guarantees they want, how intrusive this can be on the website, and things like that. I want to learn that. Let's talk about MakerWiki.
Oh yeah,
Let's just wait until they stop pulling.
yeah. What's this? Is it an online event or it's an offline event? Who can participate? What are you going to do
Yeah.
there?
So with MakerWiki, the big goal with MakerWiki is to make indie making more popular, to make it easier for new indie makers to enter the game, to make it less lonely for indie makers to be an indie maker, to create network for indie makers so that they can find each other in the same city because most of them don't know each other, don't even know that they are in the same city. So that's why I'm doing
Mhm,
multiple actions towards this goal. So one action I've done was launching a directory called in the maker list that puts people in
mhm.
cities as groups so you can see who is living in your city or in your country. And I've been told that some people found friends already just by filtering out their city. That was kind of cool. So I will push that directory more, but now it's kind of
Cool.
floating itself, but I will push it more later. So the next action I want for this is to have so it's part of it too. So it will create Incubator will be fully online, and most likely I will let people watch it. So there will be people incubating, but others can
Mhm,
watch. It will be in public. You can watch every single thing we've done there, every single feedback I gave to someone. Everything will be public. So it will be the first public incubator ever in. Then the next action that's even cooler is to
mhm.
get indie makers into the same place physically because we have enough chats on the internet, but nothing replaces the real human hug. So that's why I want to
Oh yeah.
start a series of these offline gatherings for indie makers. I don't yet know what to do on those gatherings. So I think in the first 10, maybe, it'll be all around fun and some learning. Because I think for the incubator, for example, it's better to run it digitally than offline because people are less distracted. They are just doing the thing, their comfort
Mm,
zone, in their own best chair, etc. That's why I don't think it will be easy
yeah.
offline in a new place. That's why it's right now I see it more like icebreaker, so that more indie makers meet each other and trust each other and are more
Mhm,
open for collaborations with each other. So I would say my long-term goal is that we end up in years from now in a place where eventually every maker seen every other maker. That will not happen, but that's kind of the goal. That every maker has seen every other maker that he or she is constantly, having
mhm,
fun on Twitter with, but they seen each other in physical
mm.
world because that will create very strong next level relationship in the digital world. And from now on, people will do even more with each other, with more support, with more
Mm.
collaborations, etc. And we know that when YC had their online batches, those were disaster. These were the worst batches they ever had. They were the biggest batches and the worst one. They had a lot in size. It was triple in size, and they were really bad. And they are now back to offline only.
Mm.
You can't be online at all, like only offline. And I can understand because there are good things in that. So yeah, that's and also the final goal is the Indie Maker Village network. And doing all this, we're preparing the ground for the final project by doing incubators, by doing
Mm.
online events, by doing offline week gatherings. We prepare the ground for Indie Maker Village. We prepare the ground for more serious entry into the real world with that.
What about the event, which is going to happen in a week or so? What will
Yeah,
happen
so
there?
it starts on September 15th and ends on 22nd, so it goes for 7 days. And we have 8 people there. It is small, but not that small. I think it's perfect size because if it's more, then it's like a
Mhm.
conference. If it's less, then it's like fireside. But this is perfect size. So we will have some fun every day. We're gonna go on a boat tour. We're gonna go karting. We're gonna go eat some food. We're gonna drink some beers, those who drink the beers.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we will also do some work. So the goal of the Maker Week is that we launch number of projects in groups. So there will be like 4 groups, 2 person each, and every kind of group will work on a project to launch by the end of the Maker Week. And it'll be interesting because these people will be the people who never done things together. So we're gonna kind of see it's good to let 2 indie makers do a project together. Even if that project fails and they don't do stuff again together, I think it's good for the health of the maker to at least once in a while do something with someone else because you should not forget how to work in team because sooner or later you have to hire people. Like every maker hires people eventually because
Mhm.
you grow out of being solo, right? And you kind of learn that thing, and also it will create trust, and
Mhm.
you will become better friends. So yeah, it is very experimental, but we're gonna launch 4 projects after 7 days of this Maker Week.
Mhm. So it's not the incubator, it's something
It's not an
else, right?
incubator.
It's
We're
a
not
site.
gonna be guiding the people and etc. But partly we are. I think it is a mix of a party, conference, incubator, so we can do everything at once. So in one week we're gonna try everything: teaching, incubating, partying,
Mhm.
collaborating.
To speak shortly, the incubator thing is your educational project. You want people to actually
Yeah.
learn, get real experience. And this Makers Week is a
Yes.
social project. You want people to build social
Yes,
connections.
exactly.
The main
Also,
difference,
I
right?
I think
Okay.
on the Maker Week, people will build social connections, and then they will be more open for the next project. They will be more open for the incubator projects after this. They'll be more open for some more projects we will
Mhm.
do. For example, I want to do uh, a conference, like an indie conference, which like a big like
Mm.
one day I want to bring all indie makers of the world in one place, and we have huge fun, like in the Great Gatsby, and like the whole world talks about that. And people won't do that out of the blue. If you tell them now, they'll be shy because nobody. So we have to make sure that we spend some month, years connecting people one by one with each other, so that they're all ready. So that I will go to that place, and I know 10 people personally from that crowd. Great, I will not be lonely and awkwardly alone there. I have a lot of people asking if they can come. A lot, like 40. So we could
Mm.
easily turn this into a huge party, but I didn't want that because I think these events should be small because it'll be more fun for them to be frequent and small. I mean, I want one here, then I want one in Paris, one in Lisbon, etc., etc. But all around 10 people, so that people actually get to know each other. So people actually spend days with the same people and talk. Because if you have Like, I went to Web Summit, and you come there and you end up knowing nobody there, because you spend 1 minute with person, and then go to other person, and there is nothing you get out from nothing. I've been there many times. My friends were there. Well, you meet old friends, but you never meet new friends there. And here I want actually people come out of this event as friends, as good friends, because we're so lonely, and it's not changing. It's not getting better. Like, we're not gonna. The whole thing about indie making is that you won't get an office, you will not get a team, or even if you have a team, it will be
Yeah.
remote. And I really feel lonely very often. And whenever I read Twitter, I see a lot of people saying the same things. And I think this
Yeah.
is a good way to solve that.
Yeah, the problem is of loneliness of a maker is not about seeing each other or not being able to hug other person. It's not being involved in a single project because you don't feel this compassion, the feeling of you're making one thing with your tribe, you're killing beasts
Yeah.
together and
Yeah.
you're separate things, separate paths. Yeah, and I also miss this feeling of being a part of a team, solving a same problem.
You're right.
Yeah, I wish we could do we could do more things together. Like really do, not just hang out and drink beer, but
Yeah.
invest in one.
Yeah. I think uh, it all starts with social connection, and then the next week we do more of building, less of parting, and then eventually even more of that. I think that's kind of the natural way for this to evolve. And I agree that there is nothing that makes you feel better than fighting against an enemy in a brotherhood, right? Like, it's kind of I think
Exactly.
that's the biggest fulfillment you can get if you do that. And we can fix that, and I think we should fix that. And I think if we fix that, the indie makers will flourish, because right now, look what happens to indie makers. Literally all of them end up burning out, being depressed, or hitting the wall after 3-4 years. And that's exactly the point where you should be flying farther, but when you grew something, right? But I think there's chance we can solve this.
How do you see this goal, the good world? How does it look like? People make friends, make connections, then they work on the same project, like five
No,
co-founders
I
or
think
what?
we have to make an ecosystem where everyone works on their own project, but also everyone works towards some common goals with some other people. For example, it can be in a form that, uh, like a good example, like we have CD, who is doing rapid forms, and
Mhm.
I'm doing unicorn. And every day I'm doing unicorn, he's doing rapid forms, and we are in the makers. But on the third day, we sit down together and we work together on a project called Rapid Forms Plus Unicorn, where there's win-win, where projects help each other, and it's a lot of fun. If you observe the chat, you can see that we have things like we behave like a team
Mhm.
of one
Mhm.
bigger project, but we are still running our own projects independently, which is also good. So we don't decide for each other, but we kind of work as a team. So, and I'm in that mode already, and I find that really fulfilling. And I think there is a way for every indie maker to be doing some common projects with one, two, or many other makers, the same way we're doing with Rapid Forms and with Unicorn.
Okay. I really wish you good luck because I've tried it many times. I tried to build a community. I tried to build a single project with a community of indie makers. I tried to build a project with other makers and like co-own it. I tried to build a forum, a community of indie makers, and I invited some makers and said to them, let's be the community managers, three of us, and we will share, own this forum, this website together and use it for our own good. And the enthusiasm goes away really fast. I just don't know how to keep this
I
pulse.
think you describe a little socialist group, right? Where you you share the ownership. I think the best way to fail is to share ownership. I've done that too, and I learned that. And I think
Mhm.
now I don't have any hopes for shared ownership, like zero. I think the best way to succeed with such project
Mhm.
is to avoid shared ownership and to make sure everybody pursues their own interests. So basically, a good example is entire capitalism. So we're all doing things.
Mhm.
Nobody's guiding us. Shopify built a platform. People build tool apps for Shopify. I built index rusher that helps index pages on Shopify and things like that. Nobody has been guiding us, right? But we're working together. So I think as long as we do not create shared ownership and every collaboration ends up and results into value for each member and no shared ownership created, then all good, right? Then it's all good. Uh, the only cases where I believe shared ownership can work is when there are two people.
Mm.
So that can work, and we see a lot of examples like Senji is built by two people, etc. So
Yeah.
because one can be a grinder, one can be a builder, and that works. It always worked, and best companies are made by two people. So, but if you go more than that, then it's a community, and community never works. So I don't want to go into community world at all. I want to do it in a way that, like, if I'm running a no code builder and you're running a form builder, I own my no code builder, you own your form builder, and when we work together, we are not going to create any shared ownership. We're just going to pursue our own interests, which happen to be win-win. That's it. It is difficult, much easier. It's much easier to just build something all together. And but I think it is not difficult if there are certain things in place, such as platforms, tools, and software. So I think software can help us to solve all these problems and simplify this process. Again, you can deploy app to the app store, right? In fact, you are doing collaboration with
Mhm.
Apple now. But because there is self-served way to push up there, you don't even talk to Apple almost, only at the end, right? So they have solved that. Before that, before apps and app stores, you would have to have a direct
Mhm.
collaboration with the hardware maker and software maker, and they would kind of produce a thing. So I think same thing here. So we can figure out a way how to remove shared ownership, but still have win-win and still have collaborations.
Yeah, but it's only solves the practical problem of collaborating. I get domain rating, you get domain rating. I get traffic, you get traffic. But initially, we started to speak about how do we unite makers? How do we make them solve the same problem? If you have separate paths, you don't really work together to kill one beast. You just hang out together making a side project. It's not the same,
Why?
you know?
Like
You
when
still
you are
put
making
the skin in
no,
different
but
games.
when I'm making website builder and you make form builder and we get together for a week to create lots of integrations and connections. So we work on the same thing, but we still own our own thing. So we get this fun of building thing together. We get good connection and we end up still not having any shared ownership after it. Isn't that kind of the solution? So when you and me get together and
All
you have your tool, I have my tool, but we spend a week doing work on integrating our tools or making some bridges or doing some third tool that connects these two tools or whatever like that, then we still own each tool as we came in, but now we have
Mhm.
1 plus 1 2 3 thing. So we made win-win. And I say 1 week, it can take 1 month, right? And then I can do that with other person, then with other person, you can do it with the other person. So as
Mhm.
long as we always pursue our own interests in a very egocentric way, but
Mhm.
that happens to help the other party too, then we don't get into the problems. We get the value. We get this human to human moment where we work together. I think it's maybe not the solution, but it is better than what we have now. Nothing.
Yeah, no, it's better than nothing, of course. I just started to recall these things. I had then I worked with a co-founder when we shared our problems, shared our empty pockets, and literally shared one room. And it was really different because you had that back. You had that friend who can help you. You can help to your friend, support each other, not just hey cheer up, but you're fully in the context. You literally eat the same food because you earn
Mm.
too little money, and you can laugh about this, right? You can make jokes that you don't have money. You
It's
can make
cool to
jokes
be
about,
poor
you can dream
together.
together about the
It's
biggest
cool
future.
to struggle together.
Yeah,
Struggling together is the best thing you can have
yeah,
for a short period of time.
yeah. This is what I'm missing, like a part of the team, not, I mean, not a
Yeah,
collaborating team, but like you are sailing the same ship. If it sinks, you're dead together. If you reach America, you are there together, and there is a path that you go together. But if you collaborate for a week, you're not in the one ship. You're still on
yeah, I
separate
get it.
ships.
I think you'll feel better after this week anyways compared to before the week, but you will not get to the
Of
thing
course.
you're describing where you're almost like a family. You're describing a family where you're a family together, you're under a broken roof, it's leaking, and you're trying to fix it together. If you don't fix, you just drown together. It is fun.
Let's make our village.
Yeah.
When we will build in our houses, it will be leaking, and we will struggle together
Literally.
and make a fire, a single
Yeah, we can
fire.
do that literally.
Yes.
Cool. Oh, I have next
Yeah.
meeting.
Cool.
So 11 hours.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast show. Tell us what you think on Twitter. I mean, X.
Cool. Ask us questions. We can answer them in the replies. See you all again. Bye, Alex.
Bye.